this is the job. Like if Vince had gone, this is what he would have been the head of um, talent relations, and he would have been the head of creative. Um, right now, he still has Pritchard with him. We haven't heard a word of whatever is going to happen with the production side, but like I mentioned last week, there's been overwhelming like speculation that like Triple H and Stephanie ever got a hold of this shit. Like Dunn and his people is going to be shipped out, and NXT people are going to be shipped in. Um, who knows when we talked about the soft. I think we talked about the soft
Relaunch.
reboot.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the air on the Friday emergency episode. But yeah, I don't have any idea when it's going to happen. But there's if he's going to be at the head and he's actually at the head of this, and like throughout the day, it seems more and more apparent that like this is actually going to be his show. I am not going to watch. I am going to listen to keep my ear to it and find out when like the changes start coming in and what this looks like. And like me and Rich all throughout the day were talking about um our I guess confidence or lack thereof in valid reasons for and against Triple H, and Triple H is by no means a perfect booker. I think over the last decade he's one of the better bookers we've had in pro wrestling. Um, I think that your point that you always made is like it's very valid. It's like he never had to um, he never had to keep the same roster for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Um, and like there's definitely something to that. I'm interested to see how that goes. I'm interested to see how that goes when like he's the person that knows when the end of the line is for certain talent and is not at the whims of you know his step his father-in-law fucking with his roster constantly when he has things set in motion. And I was like, nope. Kyrie saying Io Joshi match on Takeover, not having that, pulling her out to be a Kabuki Warrior. We just made War Machine the tag team champions of NXT. Nope, they're the Viking Experience now. Yoink. Street Profits just won the belts. No, they're about to show up with the belts on the main roster, even though like we just took your previous champion that was the War Machines. Like so, it's always gonna we're finally going to see like what this all is gonna look like. I think the idea of a actual like a person that actually is aware of all of the systems, aware of all the talent, aware of where everything is, and have an actual solid vision is going to work out for the best, even if it's like not necessarily the smoothest. But like the idea that like you basically on like your developmental slash college show, right? You do this, people get over in X, Y, and Z, and then like Vince just looks at a probably like a fucking 8x10 of someone and says, or looks at the screen and is like, look at those muscles, bring them up. And what was he doing? Let me watch one episode of what he was doing on Hunter's show. And then it turns into whatever the fuck. Like they got, Eli Drake, who was LA Knight on NXT, and like Eli or LA Knight was like he was more or less what he was on the Indies, and like he was having decent matches, and he's always been a very good talker. And then they bring him up, and he's was it Max Dupree, and he's like the head of a scouting of like a male modeling thing. It's like what? How do you go from
Maximum
that to
male
that?
models.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I think I just like the idea of it's gonna be actually one vision and we're gonna see. And I quite frankly like it's not necessarily my confidence in Triple H as much as it is my confidence that like if I've always believed that like there's one person fucking up all those people, there can't be that many goddamn dummies making six figures that are in control of this shit. I just don't believe it. I just can't believe that like I can see one fucking guy who happened to be the father or the son of a multi-billionaire say, hey, I've been fantasy booking in notebooks and on laptops for years. Let me go ahead and put this shit together and then like have AEW and then see what that is and say like in the main roster for WWE is like it ain't even gotta be as good as that? Can it just be competent? Like, we don't think that like we can get a team of a monkey rider team to just be competent. So that's why I'm confident. It's like, does it have to be better? And you even agree to this. Like, does it have to be better? Like, better than what? The hell? Not even the floor.
Yeah,
hell?
because like how I land, like I always land on anything is up from Vince.
Right.
I just think there were a lot of questions that people weren't asking about this. Like it was just so nostalgia of how much they liked NXT Black and Gold from like 2014 and 2018, and they didn't think about the after portion of that. And I was like, well, he's fresh off that pacemaker still. And now he's doing 5 hours a week live first run, and I think it's fair to say he struggled with 2 every week. And his peak, like the best of him, was like a 1 hour taped show format that peaked in quarterly 5-match shows, and he has way more people to handle now. He has the longtime tenured veteran roster that were there with his early NXT people, the mid-tier or the mid-times NXT, the later NXT, and then he's going to start making room for the new people. And as you mentioned, like, when does he find the end of the line with some people will be interested. And, NXT was a weapon to, in its entire existence. It was built to combat your Ring of Honors, your New Japans, and people that watch stuff outside of WWE. I don't necessarily think that booking is going to be the way he books Raw and SmackDown, but I always land back on the point of it's going to be up from Vince, and I'm just like, oh, all right, like we'll see, because like we've actually, like, I was going through old messages, like we started talking about the babyface track record today. We've actually had that conversation before, like maybe like a year and a half ago. And it's just like I when people lose the championships, I got I'm wondering like what he'll do with them, and it's a lot, like, and will he look at talent like the same way he did in NXT? And there's like, will he miss on people? And of course the answer to that
everyone misses on people.
Of course, yeah, you'll miss on somebody, but like there's a lot that Triple H, like people assume that there was just a lot of stuff, but like I seem to remember him pushing the hell out of Karrion Kross, so like there could be some of that in there too. So
yeah. I just think that I personally think that given the things that we heard about NXT written or whether else, I think Michael Cedric wrote that NXT developmental hell book or whatever, and like a lot of it came down to is like he was actually doing what Vince should have done, where it was like treat or hire a team and actually put them in place to do their job instead of micromanaging everything and ripping up scripts and having shit planned out. And obviously, like you mentioned, it's easier to tape 3 or 4 shows and let it run out. But like the idea where even at its worst with NXT, before they had that first NXT wave of cuts in 2000 of last year in the summer, like they were still saying, hey, next week we have these 2 or 3 matches. 2 weeks from now, we have 1 match already to build anticipation. We haven't seen that on the main roster since like 2016 SmackDown, when they had Ryan Ward at the time at the helm of that SmackDown writing team. Like, can you do the simple fucking things? Like this isn't hard. This is like booking wrestling continuously is hard, but like the structure in place, if he just follows the structure, he ain't even got to turn his brain on to be like, yeah, bro, I need to go out here and do a set up like a Kenny Hangman level story or a Eddie Kingston Jericho level story. Like, can you just simply keep the fucking lights on and tell people what they're going to see next week to get them to tune in with a fun match or 2, and then can you give them something to look forward to in 2 weeks and build that it's going to be a promo, it's going to be a debut, it's going to be whatever it is, like, and then go from there. And also like like we talk about with WWE often in the Vince era, especially at the last few years, is like you know what your schedule is because you know that that Royal Rumble is on like the last Sunday of January. WrestleMania is in the first Sunday of April. SummerSlam is usually in like the middle of August. Survivor Series like the Sunday before Thanksgiving. I know the schedule by heart. Yeah, there's some changes here and there, but mostly you fit those four in and you throw like Money in the Bank in the summer somewhere, Hell in a Cell in the fall somewhere, or they changed it recently. But like, like all of these pay-per-views basically are like 10 of the 12 or whatever else are like the same every single year on rotation. How do you keep getting fucking blindsided by the fact like
It's like
it's
you're
very
always running up that hill.
right, right. Like all you it's not that hard. Have a plan, know what the big shows are, have an idea of what matches you want to do from there, and then like sit there and collaborate effort with the writers to come up with something cool or whatever else, and like delegate and take the credit when the shit doesn't go bad.
However, I do not want any. I want no parts of that global localization shit that he was trying to pull with
You don't think that's
NXT
dead?
and the maps and all that stuff. Like, and trying to buy out promotions and shit. Like, they can keep all that shit. Hopefully, Nick Khan is like, nah, we don't need to be doing none of that.
You don't think that's dead?
It could be back alive.
I think the only person that really wanted that was Vince.
I think Triple H wanted that badly.
I think Triple H wanted that to because that was his job is to want it. I don't think he actually wanted it. Like what NXT India?
Everyone wants
If you want
India.
NXT, if you want NXT India so bad, why did he say, "Hey, let me go ahead and hit Jenner, one of them." I don't,
He knew.
eh.
He knew. What else? The
Griff makes a great point. Nick Khan seems that he wants to keep those books,
in the green as much as
clean. Yeah,
possible.
because I mean,
Yes.
they're still talking about, still talks about like the stock price when people expect to sell, and people have been talking about sales for WWE ever since Nick Khan showed up.
Yeah. So it will be interesting to see like how it all plays out. Regardless, in the long